Hey, hello dear Swift learners, how are you all? I hope that you all are safe and sound at your homes, and I am back for you bringing with me another new session. So we are going to study about nervous system, and it is our session 3 today. Now before that, we will be having a quick tour around Swiflearn as usual to see what is Swiflearn all about. Swiflearn, it is India's most sincere learning destination, wherein we provide the classes for grade 1 to grade 10. Over here at Swiflearn, you will be getting live and interactive classes with personalized batch with 6 students on maximum. Then apart from teachers, we also have an academic mentor team for you who will be tracking your progress and will be guiding you. Then we also cover the syllabus as per your school exam schedule so that you can perform well there also. Now, some of the key features of Swiflearn includes detailed progress report. So by the end of 2.5 months, you will be getting a detailed progress report which will be a kind of analysis of all your homeworks, classworks, practice tests, etc. Then we have Swiflearn academic test series. You can participate, can see your position and can work accordingly. And you can also take unlimited practice tests, which includes 2 categories, subjective and objective. So all these things you can experience just by booking a very free trial class on Swiflearn, and then you can go with the further processes. Now please subscribe to the channel of Swiflearn, press the bell icon so that you do not miss any update. So as I told you, we are going to continue with nervous system. It's our session number 3 in which we are going to revise a bit and we are going to learn about nervous system and a bit about reflex action and arc. So in our previous class we studied about various type of neurons and their functions, right? How do the neurons transfer any information or impulse? So neurons, they have dendrites, cell body, nucleus and axon. What's happening is the information, it is detected by dendrites and they are converted to impulse, and then they are passed from there to cell body. From cell body, the axon collects the impulses, and at the nerve ending, these electrical impulses, they are converted into chemicals and are released. So these chemicals they will be passed to next neuron through this gap or a joining called synapse. And from synapse, one neuron, it transfers the information or the message to another neuron. Now talking about nervous system. So what's a nervous system? It is a kind of complex network of various nerves and cells, and they carry the information to the brain and spinal cord, and from the brain and spinal cord to various parts of our body. The nervous system, it is responsible, it coordinates the participation of various sense organ, our nerves, our spinal cord, our brain. And the changes that we see around us, they are detected by the sense organ because they have neurons at their tips. The human nervous system, it is classified into 3 categories: central nervous system, peripheral nervous system and autonomic nervous system. We are going to study about each kind. Central nervous system or CNS, it controls the most functions of our body and mind, and it comprises of our brain and spinal cord. So the brain, it is control house of our body, right? All the activities that are happening, whether it is mental or physical, they are somehow related to the brain only. If I talk about our behavior, our emotions, our anxiety, stress, anger, all these are first of all, if I talk about all these issues, they are hormonal things, right? They are under the control of hormones. But again, these hormones are also controlled by hypothalamus, which is part of our brain. So somehow they are also related to our brain. So brain, it is connected to all the sense organ of our body, and it kind of forms a site for processing the vision, hearing, speech, taste, memory, intelligence, emotions, thoughts, etc. So whatever happens in our body, it is somehow related to the brain. Now talking about the structure of brain, it is enclosed within the skull and it provides frontal, lateral and dorsal protection. So our skull protects the brain, and our brain is composed of 3 parts: forebrain, midbrain and hindbrain. The forebrain is the anterior part of brain and it consists of cerebrum, hypothalamus and thalamus. Midbrain, it is the central or the smaller part of the brain stem, and it consists of tectum and tegmentum. And this hindbrain, it is the central region of brain, and it is composed of cerebellum, medulla and pons. Now spinal cord. So what is spinal cord? It is a kind of cylindrical bundle of nerve fibers and associated tissues, and these are enclosed within a spine, and it connects all the part of our body to the brain. So we will see how does it run. So here it connects the brain to various parts of the body, right? It begins in continuation with medulla. So here it begins and it extends downwards, and also it is covered by this bony cage which is known as vertebral column, and it is surrounded by the membranes which are known as meninges. So it is protected by the vertebral column. So what are the functions of spinal cord? It conducts the sensory information from peripheral nervous system to the brain. It conducts motor information from brain to various effectors, and it serves as minor reflex center. So it is a kind of signal transmitter. Okay, it conducts the information from brain to body, from body to brain. The peripheral nervous system, it consists of the nerves and ganglia outside the brain and spinal cord, and it is the lateral part of nervous system which develops from central nervous system, and it connects different parts of the body with central nervous system. So peripheral nervous system is a kind of connection which happens between central nervous system and different parts of the body, and we do both the actions which are voluntary and involuntary with help of peripheral nerves. Now what is meant by voluntary and involuntary actions, we will be seeing soon. Next is autonomic neural system. So autonomic neural system, it is involved in all the involuntary actions which are regulation of physiological functions, digestion, respiration, salivation, etc. So this is autonomic neural system. Okay, so the functions which are here are stimulus, bile release, contracts bladder, slows heartbeat, constricts bronchi, stimulates peristalsis and secretion. So all these involuntary actions which are not in our hand, they are controlled here. And it is a self-regulating system which conveys the impulses from central nervous system to the smooth muscles and involuntary organs. So involuntary means something that is beyond our control. For example, heart functioning, bladder functioning, pupil functioning, etc. So the neural system, it controls three actions: voluntary, involuntary and reflex action. Let's study about each of them. So voluntary actions, these are the actions which are produced with our involvement of thoughts, okay, which we can keep under control. So if I want to walk, I'm walking. If I want to run, I'm running. So these actions are voluntary. Okay, so walking, eating, jumping, running, so these are produced consciously, and that is why they are known as voluntary actions. The brain and spinal cord is involved in these actions. They coordinate with PNS, peripheral nervous system, and they generate the movements. Then we have involuntary action. So these actions are those which take place without our consciousness or willingness. Okay, for example, digestion of food, heartbeat, sneeze, etc. So these are not under our control. So all these actions, voluntary and involuntary, they are controlled by same part of the brain, hindbrain and midbrain. They control involuntary actions, and body's voluntary actions, they are controlled by motor cortex and frontal lobe of our cerebrum. Now if I talk about a pin pricking our hand, what do we do? If a pin pricks our hand, we just immediately remove our hand, or maybe if we touch any hot object, we remove our hand. Why? Because when we touch any hot object, or when we touch on any sharp object, our hands will either burn or it will get pricked, right? So we suddenly remove our hand. So at this time our body is showing sudden response. Okay, we are not thinking anything, and that is known as reflex action. So how to define a reflex action? Reflex, it is a kind of involuntary and sudden action, okay, and it happens to be integral component of famed survival instinct. So if I talk about touching any hot object, my brain doesn't take much time, okay, I do not think very much, I just immediately remove it. So that actions are known as reflex action. So most of the reflex, they are response to well trained accumulated knowledge. So if I already have a knowledge about any particular situation, okay, that I have came across, then at that time reflex action will come into the picture. And it could be anything, and ranges from reflex action of abruptly withdrawing the hand, okay, when we come under the contact of extremely hot or maybe cold object or maybe sharp object. So this thing is known as reflex action. Okay, so it has subtle relation to instinct, which means it doesn't take much time. As soon as I touch any hot object, I'll remove my hand. So it happens within fraction of seconds. A reflex is an action triggered by this instinct. At times we do not have any prior knowledge if the pan is hot or not, right? So we do not take much time in reflex action. Okay, so as soon as I touch it, I'll just remove my hand in fraction of second. Now, action of neuron. So two neurons dominate the pathway: afferent nerves, which are receptor, and efferent nerve, which are effector or exciter. So let's see about how things happen. So it first happens with, or it begins with receptor. It detects the stimulus or sudden change in the environment, okay, and this stimulus, it is received from a sensory organ. So what is happening is sensory organ or sensory neuron, it is sending a signal to relay neuron, and after the relay neuron, it sends the signal to motor neuron. After receiving the signal, this motor neuron further sends the signal to effector, and effector produces the response, okay, response like pulling away of the hand or knee jerk action. Okay, so it can be summarized that movement from efferent neuron receives signal from sensory organ, and it transmits the impulse via dorsal nerve root into central nervous system. So it is a very fast process that happens very, very quickly. The efferent neuron then carries the signal from CNS to effector, and the stimulus thus forms a reflex arc. So this is how the complete action happens. Now, talking about in evolutionary perspective, a reflex action it has played a very important part in ensuring survival of organisms. So why? Because it has enabled quick reaction. If we take time, maybe it might be too late. Okay, so certain situations require very, very quick reaction, and that is how the reflex action have been proved very useful for us. Now let's see the questions. Define nervous system. So nervous system is a kind of network of the nerves and cells, and they carry the message from body to brain and from brain to body. Then CNS is central nervous system. So its function is to control the body and mind. Okay, it consists of brain and spinal cord. What is involuntary action? Which is not in our hand, okay, which happens without our willingness or without our consciousness. For example, digestion of food, beating of heart, etc. And what is reflex arc? So it is a kind of involuntary and sudden response to the stimuli, and it happens in fraction of seconds. Now, interesting fact says that the human brain, it begins to lose some memory abilities also and some cognitive skills by your late 20s. Our brain uses 20% of oxygen and blood in our body, and about 75% of the brain, it is made up of water. So if we are dehydrated even in small amounts, our brain gets affected. So that is why it is said that we should have good liquid intake. And largest brain of any animal, it is that of sperm whale, and it weighs up to 20 pounds. It has largest brain. A person after consuming alcohol walks clumsily. Now why does it happen? When a person consumes alcohol, the cerebellum, it gets affected. Now cerebellum, it is responsible to for the movements in our body, right? And if our cerebellum is affected, it is not able to send the correct signals. Okay, it is unable to coordinate these muscular movements, and that is why the person walks clumsily. Okay, let's do an activity to see what we have learned. The major part of brain contains cerebrum, cerebellum, medulla oblongata, all of these. Full form of PNS, it is peripheral nervous system. then at the last, the smaller and the central part of the brain, it is known as midbrain. Okay, so what are the things that we have learned today? We learned about nervous system, which contains CNS, PNS and ANS. Then we learned about reflex action and DR. So I hope that you might have understood everything that we have learned today. We will be meeting in our next session, in which we will be learning about many new things. So if you have also missed out on any first or second session, you can go to Swiflearn channel. The videos are listed there. Please go see those videos and also book your free trial class on Swiflearn. So let's meet in the next class. Till then, keep studying, keep learning, and take care.